I dreamt that there was a silent world. No words. No words. Only doing. I swam in it, as did you. Billions of mistakes silently formed the questioner. Crafted with no intent. Questioning became advantage. Simple memory. Now we pretend not to remember our embeddedness in it, an idolatry of the mind and of word. Words blinding us from God, the silent God of evolution, before there was a name for it. Pre. I am still it, floating just above, cabled just so much, but often I lose the essence of us and it. Behind the tag, behind the word, behind words, behind the tag is the thing. Yet we collect tags, holding them tightly to our chest, as if rich with beads. As if we were rich with beads. Feel into it. Silence the left. Dance with the right. We are it. It is us. It is us. The evolution of dumb matter, recklessly forming over time so deep, epochs of time so deep, that even a fool assembles me. Even a fool assembles me. Sensing organs floating just above the rim of it. Us, swimming in sensations. Probes not to, but probes from it. Sent out to the edge by ancient advantage. The dumb, die, heliotropic turners. We see, we taste, we smell to advantage in a playground for an eternity. Up pops us. We see, smell, taste, and we begin to know. In the other, a mirror shows us our animal face. But in the eyes, we seem to know the suggestion of a knowing that cannot be forgotten. And then we are born in them, in the other's eyes, aware, but afraid. Abstract thought, words push us out of the garden of us, and we begin to call it, not us. Difference defines, but then it lies. Overuse of anything will numb. That's a poem which came to me early in the morning of May 23rd of this year, after I dreamt all night, a dream without images, a dream without words, a dream without a storyline, a dream that was totally a sensing, a feeling. And I knew when I woke in the dream and started to try to interpret it, I found that it went away, it faded quickly, so I put myself back to sleep and dreamt all night, felt all night, what it is to be me. What we are is so complex and so wondrous and so awe-inspiring, and we don't even notice it. It's so obvious that it's become invisible to us. I'd like to read a second poem, which I call The Ancient New Wet Box. The Ancient New Wet Box. I think there's a few things in this poem that most people don't know about, so I'd like to kind of narrate those before I read the poem, if I can find the poem. But the things is that a raccoon in the wild will, without seeing it modeled, right after birth, will find water and wash its hands prior to eating. Some sort of very specific behaviors are encoded in DNA, and all animals display this in one way or another. The other is that when you're in your mother's womb, as the egg and sperm meet and the DNA is being spliced together, the reader gene, a thing called a reader gene, spins down the DNA of each of your mother and your father and picks out those aspects of DNA which will become you. Another thing is that when the Big Bang happened 13.4 billion years ago, there were only two elements emitted, hydrogen and helium, and they coalesced around each other because of gravitational pull, and then until there were enough of them and dense enough that the density created heat, and they exploded into stars. And then those stars burned for millions of years, and then when they exploded, depending on how big they were, what their mass was, and what temperature they exploded at, they produced all the elements that we have on the earth that are the building blocks of all things here. I think that's it. There's one more thing, but I can't remember it. Let's see if I can find the poem. Here it is. This is called The Ancient New Wet Box. Again, it came to me in a dream. It was a little over a year ago. Again, a dream without images or narration or forms, visions, just a feeling all night long, and the feeling was about who I am, about who I think we are. The ego is deeply, deeply embedded in a culture. The culture of a family, a town, a time, a state, a country. It was a wet, malleable brain in the mother's womb, layered as well, from reptilian to mammalian, layer upon layer, that the socialized ego and the inherited ego of instinct and DNA, already in conception, were there to take in the encoded recapitulation of all time into a single wet sponge, is ready for the influence of society and all that I encounter in my life. Some of what I am is so deep that it would seem to be within the very fiber of my physiology, part of the fleshy organism so moist inside the flesh of my frame. And another part of who I will become, egoistic, is in the room that I am born into, mother and father, first influence and ground of my biological being, me, a wet marriage of the rendering of the reader gene, spinning down the DNA of each in an egg, into an egg and wet soup, which will become me. Mother holds me in wetness again. Feel who it is to be me in the flesh, feel who it is to be me, in the flesh, and inside of the flesh, and inside of the organs, and deep in the encoded impulses, encoded and deep in the evolved impulses, encoded like a newborn raccoon finding water, untrained, washing its hands before eating. And return again inside of the skin and feel that it has a more complex making, subatomic, molecular, deep down, deeper still down, into the origin of the universe, made of and in the absence of the very exploding universe as it exploded into existence and then through deep time and fire coalesced into parts, then exploding again, transmuting into elements and pieces and building blocks of matter and into me. Now, box, well built, these put into it, the mother's gaze, or lack thereof, the father's dark voice, the school and the peers, the wind and the rain, the sunny camping trips, harsh words, the Vietnam War, the betrayals, the loves, the wind again, and the wonder, things and systems of things, into this ancient, new, wet box. Some things are so ever-present and so obvious as to be invisible to us. But if we can sense and take the time, perhaps to notice and to wonder, we might find that we are an immense, an amazing phenomenon. The Homo sapien, with its bicameral mind split right down the middle, left hemisphere doing lineal processing, right hemisphere doing parallel processing and sensing and sorting, one silent and one with words, giving us the perspective, upright standing primates, 180,000 years old, built on the skeletal structures of mammals back into time, millions and billions of years, common ancestors, common genetics, common molecular structures from the beginning of all time. From the beginning of all time. We are not probes sent to, we are probes sent from. Feel into that. Feel into what it is to be a primate who's come to consciousness. Feel the awe of it. Feel the complex making. Celebrate life. Celebrate this phenomenon called you and the planet that we are. Beyond any elixir offered by any sentimental religion or any fairy tale that could be made, the obvious invisible reality of our being, of our existence, transcends all those and fills me with wonder. Fills me with wonder. Thank you for your time.